Welcome back. We have started exploring the book of Jeremiah last week. In this lesson, The Crisis Within and Without, we're going to learn about the background in which Jeremiah the prophet appears on the stage of Israel's history.
Crisis. We know crisis. We live among many of them. But talking about Jeremiah, crisis within and without. It wasn't just that the government was corrupt, the church was corrupt, but the people's hearts were not sensible to God's voice. They were so full of themselves they didn't want to hear the warnings. The lesson makes a quick historical overview.
Yeah, and it says that the crisis began in Eden. But now that God has chosen His own nation, His own people to be His messenger and to be His glory in this world, there was a new beginning. Things were going smooth, kind of smooth, until a new generation appeared and came in Israel after they entered into Canaan. How weak and how transient human nature is.
It's the next generation's fault again.
Yes.
The lesson asks us to reflect on this as well. But going through history, through the judges, Saul, David, Solomon, God was working with his people, but even though Solomon was the wisest, his ruling led to the division to two kingdoms, Israel in the north and Judah in the south.
And apostasy is another big word that I find in this lesson. God had great hopes and expectation for His people, but unfortunately, they let Him down by the northern kingdom when they decided to worship other gods. It was Jeroboam who built two golden calves and offered them to worship by the people. Why? So that they would not go in Jerusalem, worship there, and supposedly switch their allegiance to the southern king. Talking about ambitious and egocentric kings.
Why do people forget about God or switch away? Difficult questions. It's terrible when we lose sensibility to God's voice and put our trust in our own visions. The choices of Israel led them to destruction by the Assyrians. The southern kingdom did a bit better, but was on the same path of destruction, this time by the Babylonians. And here we find Jeremiah and God's desire to do something about it.
And I find the culmination of this lesson in Jeremiah 2:13, where God speaks and says, "My people have committed two sins. They have forsaken me, the spring of living water, and second, have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water." How easily we forget about God. Then naturally we find our own inspiration and motivation somewhere else outside of God. We dig our own ways. We dig with our own wisdom and effort.
Just because our parents had something good, it doesn't mean that we'll value it as well. If we don't experience it personally, it's easy to forget. But even if we do personally experience it, we can still forget. It's our nature. This is why the relationship is so important.
So Jeremiah prophesied that Babylon will visit Judah and will make their land desolate and wasted. Talking about crisis. The big surprise in the Bible is that God is leading the Babylonian army for the destruction of His own people. Why would God turn His back on them? What is His motivation? What is that can provoke such a drastic measures in Him?
What are you talking about? You are so wrong. We are God's people.
Am I?
There is no way that God is going to allow any of this to happen to us. We have the temple here among us. We have the truth. We are good. You are a false prophet.
In the book of Jeremiah, God is desperate. All of His options have been exhausted. The God of Israel wants to start a new beginning, to start from scratch, just like He started after Egypt. Only this time after Babylon. But a last chance is given in Jeremiah 5:1, where God says, "If you can find but one person who deals honestly and seeks the truth, I will forgive this city."
Sometimes The crisis without is meant to help with the crisis within. Can we stay receptive to God's voice even when we don't like it?